Hey guys, welcome to the Bionicle Inspiration Series, the series where we cover the mocks of the community to help inspire you for something to build in the future. Today we're going to be covering arm designs. Once again, we've covered them before, but in different ways. We've covered upper arms, we've covered lower arms. This time we're just covering arms in general. Be sure to wait till the end of the episode where you can find out how you can submit some of your own mocks to the Bionicle Inspiration Series. So like Akimu before us, let's put on our masks of creation and get creative. Let's check out some very nicely designed arm designs. So the first mock we have today is by Chris Karnak and is called the Big Jungus. Now what I love so much about this mock is it combines multiple different themes in one. Bionicle and construction. No, not construction, construction stuff. And so it's also kind of managed to incorporate that into the arm design and actually throughout most of the mock, which is really cool. So I really like that idea of, relating specific concepts, as in construction, or, I don't know, say you're combining Nexo Knights with Bionicle, or Star Wars with Bionicle, who knows? Taking the specific aspects that are very key to that, and then incorporating it into the Bionicle in some fashion. For example, like we see on this mock, because it is construction-based, he's got a big digger arm. I think that's really cool. And then we actually see aspects of that throughout the rest of the mock too. Like we've got some treads up there towards the top of the mock, and we've even got these sort of big engine-y bits and some chains and stuff down the bottom, very similar to something you would see in a construction yard on some of the big machines and stuff. I think that's very, very cool. Very nice little additions and details in there. It's surprisingly a really great way to incorporate more detail into a mock, is to pick a specific theme, see the sort of aspects that are very common in that theme, and then find a way to incorporate that into a mock somehow. It's very clever and very nicely done. So going back to the arm design, like I said, it uses a digger piece there for a sort of weapon on the mock. It kind of reminds me of the old Transformers Energon Optimus Prime, for those of you who remember, or for those of you who don't. Basically, how it worked when it transformed into truck mode, it was sort of like one of those trucks that carries all the cars inside it. I'm not sure what those are actually called, but it was cool because the trailer was able to sort of store all these sort of smaller vehicles, and then when he transformed, he was able to use these 4 vehicles as different arms or legs. And there was a sort of concept in the show and with the toy that you could switch between the 4. You could have the drill be the arm, or the drill be the leg, or the submarine be the top, or was it a submarine? I always thought it looked like a submarine. Maybe it wasn't. But I always thought that was cool. I always remember in the TV show, Optimus would sort of switch between them, and I remember as a kid being like, ooh, make the drill your arm, because then you can drill into people's faces, or like, make the helicopter one your arm, because then you've got the rotor, and you can use that as a weapon, and like, Optimus, do this, so cool. And I always thought that was cool. Just that concept as a whole, being able to, have all the different stuff that's interchangeable in whatever fashion and using it as a weapon. And I think that's very much what this mock is doing. Having that digger thing, it works well as an arm, or it could work well as a weapon. Very creative, very cool. Speaking of very creative and very cool, really like that head design there. It's amazing how well that Evo head there works for a sort of construction-based theme. Surprisingly clever. Very, very nice. And also very, very nice to see that Hero Factory shell window piece, whatever you want to call it. Not a shell. The Hero Factory window piece used on top of the mask there as sort of kind of like a heads-up display, also kind of like a sort of protective barrier of some kind. It's very nice. It's a nice little addition and kind of a great way to sort of expand upon the mask in some fashion. It's clever. It's creative. I like it. So yeah, some great stuff going on there. And also really cool to see some of the mixel joints there being able to kind of make fingers out of those. I've had a few people say, like, Ben, do a hands episode. I'll do another one. And it's cool just to see that design alone, using some of those sort of ratchety connector pieces there for fingers, and then attaching them to the mixel ball part that connects to those pieces, and then connects to the mixel stuff, and then you've got superposable, very awesome looking finger designs. Of course, this is a much bigger mock, so that sort of design naturally lends itself to a bigger mock. It works quite nicely. Some very nice stuff going on here. Let's move on to the next mock, which is by IGU and is called Mock Spider Queen. So you asked for arms. I didn't just give you one arm. I just didn't give you 2 arms. I gave you heaps of arms. I gave you hella arms. I gave you, what is this? He has 8 arms. Like any, or she, I guess, because it's Spider Queen. She has 8 arms, like any good spider would. And I think this is a very unique, very cool way to play around with arms. I really like this idea. So you've got the arms that have hands on them. Typical arms, normal arms. And even cooler to sort of see another really nice hand design. Man, this is the hand arm design. I guess because it's an arm design episode, hands would play a part. I suppose that makes sense. There you go. But it's also the finger design episode, I guess. There you go. Anyway, very typical. Looks great, but awesome to see the Exoforce claw grabby bits. I don't even know what you call those anymore, because I mean they came out when Exoforce came out, and they were the hands on the. Oh no, I guess they came out in the Spider-Man sets with Doc Ock. He had those claw things. Because they used to promote that you could use those claws to latch on to minifigures, and then they never did that anymore. And yet you see them used all the time in all sorts of different things. I'm rambling, I'm going off topic. But very nice to see those used as a finger design. Very clever, works very nicely. And then we go to the hand, arm, whatever you want to call them, that are below those ordinary arms. And you've got a sort of more, almost bug-like, not quite spider-like, but, you know, they're almost sort of pincery, but not quite pincery. They've got claws on them. Look, I don't know what you'd call them, but they look cool. And this is sort of the weapon part of the Muck. And then, as you can kind of see off of the back here, the arms continue to spread out, but the rest of the arms actually form the legs. And you get this really unique spider-like design. It's awesome. It's very creative and very clever, actually having the arms be the legs. It's a bit like Sebulba from The Phantom Menace, for those of you who remember him. Of course, it is a little bit different, but it's that same sort of concept of having arms be legs and hands be legs and arms and boopity-boopity-boop. Very clever. But I really enjoy this sort of arachnid spider-like design. You know, the legs are not in fact legs at all. It's just sort of flows down into an abdomen there. It's very nice. It's a very unique way to look at stuff. You know, maybe kind of really challenge that on whatever Muck you're currently working on. You know, do the legs need to be legs? Can there be something totally different? Can you flip a concept on its head, really expand upon it, or even draw inspiration from the animal kingdom, which this is doing in some fashion? So very unique and very cool. Speaking of very unique and very cool, one thing I like a lot about this Muck is the eye design. Now, originally, I thought the eye design was the sort of very spider-like eye design, having all these multiple eyes staring you down and making you terrified. But no, I actually think maybe the eyes are the lower part here. You can see some, what I believe look to be Borak eyes in trans-light blue there, and then we've got some tan here, and it makes me think that this is a sort of more kind of humanoid head design. You know, the tan representing flesh and those eyes being his actual eye, or her actual eyes. I keep doing that. Very clever. And you can also even see some hair stuff going on there with some of those Paraka spine, minifigure Paraka spine pieces there flowing off into hair. It's another very interesting concept. Kind of is this sort of half spider, half woman, spider woman. It's very cool. It's very awesome. Very creative. Very clever. So it's cool that those are almost sort of like goggles or something at the top, what I thought was originally the spider eyes there. Very cool. Also very cool to see the Groot piece there from the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie being used on the head there. Very clever, very nicely integrated there. Looks awesome. So yeah, some very unique, clever concept used throughout this Muck. Some very unique hand designs and some very unique designs in general. Oh, actually, before we finish up on this Muck, I'd also like to just touch a little bit upon the leg arms on this Muck. It's cool that they are essentially a very simple CCBS frame with some other additional like axle connectory things and stuff like that with the claws at the end, all that jazz. But it's got all these sort of detaily, greebly bits all along there, and it adds a lot more detail to it. And actually, keeping the CCBS bones bare-boned like that makes it look more bug-like. Makes it look a little bit unhinging, a little bit terrifying. It's kind of nice. It's kind of nice, and just adding in those little details there makes it pop a bit more, makes it look a little nicer. You don't have to do too much to get that desired effect. It's very, very cool. So, nicely done, IGU. Let's move on to the final Muck, which is by Muck Main Schmitty, and is called Sanaka Unit Series 4. Apologies if I pronounced it wrong. So something really cool about this, his arms are guns. Well, at least one of them is anyway. But that's awesome. You know, we spoke a little bit before about the kind of weapons being used for, you know, big old construction claw digger jobbo things being used as a weapon arm combination there. Well, why not have your guns, instead of them holding them, why not have his arms be guns? Very cool concept. Looks great. And it's awesome too how the sort of white that's highlighted on the arms here in general, whether it's on the gun arm or whether it's on the normal arm there, color blocking wise also works very well with the top here. And the top has a bit of white up there. It's very nice. It looks very cool. It's a nice little, nice way to sort of focus on the color blocking there, just to sort of have very subtle, slight bits of an additional highlight color around one or two aspects of the Muck. You know, sometimes you can just work very nicely, just have one major color and then slight accents. Kind of nice. Going back to the arms here, very cool to see some system parts being used. We actually see it being used on the leg too. It's very, very nice to see all these sort of slopes and curved slopes, inverted slopes, whatever, all being used throughout the mock, because ironically, those sorts of system parts work very well with CCBS, which obviously there is some CCBS used throughout this mock, so there's a very nice sense of flow being created between the multiple different parts like that. But it's also really cool because a lot of those slope and curved slope pieces naturally lend themselves to looking more organic, looking more lifelike, looking more sort of like body shapes and things like that. It's very nice. It's very, very cool. And the final thing on the arms I wanted to touch upon is he's used a tire piece there. Again, using more system, but it ties very nicely in with all the other Bionicle parts on this mock. And ironically, tire parts are just really good for limbs in general. Whether it's the rubber part of the tire or the tire itself, it just works nicely. You're able to get a sort of long, smooth part. Just works nice. Before we finish, really like this custom head design. Looks great. Anyway, that is about it for these arm designs in this episode. Great work to all the mockists. If you want to check out some of the stuff that they have built, be sure to check the links in the description where you can check out some of their stuff. Also, be sure to check the links in the description where you can find links to my social media. In those places, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, Flickr, any of that stuff, there are various personal messaging systems. Chuck me a message or leave a comment below, whatever. In those places, you can submit some of your own mocks or some of your own theme ideas. Whatever you wish to submit, throw it at me, see what I do with it. I'll add it to the list, and eventually it'll make it into an episode. That's it for today, guys. Happy building. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.